Hey patrons, this is Johannes from Noisebud, and today I'm presenting a new plugin called Peach. And Peach is a dynamic processor, but it works a little bit different than other dynamic processors. It looks like this. It doesn't look like much. Normally when you say, let's say that we have a compressor, normally when you dial in a dynamic processor, for example in a compressor, then you set the threshold that tells the plugin or the hardware where it should start to work. When the signal goes above the threshold, it will do something to the signal. In a compressor, it's normally a ratio, so you set it to 2:1, then it will make sure that it's half the level as soon as the signal goes above the threshold. That's a really simplification. That's not how it works really, but to simplify things. All right, in Peach, we also have a threshold. Oh, sorry, I'm zooming in crazy. Here we go. There we have the threshold. And this is actually a liner thing. Normally we use decibel value, but I decided to set all levels between 0 and 10, and 0 is infinite silence and 10 is 0 decibel full scale. And it was just easier to dial in the threshold this way. So we're gonna start with adapting the signal so that it's easy to work with, and we do that with this left button. So we just play a bit of the audio and hit this button, and that will make sure that the max peaks is 10 for the plugin, and silence is 0. So here we go. Easy peasy. Now that's done. When we're done that, we're having an upper part and a lower part of the signal, and I'm gonna set this to, let's reset stuff. Here we go. So I'm going to change the upper level. So when the signal goes above the threshold, we're gonna set the level, and you will see how this sounds. This won't sound that good yet. We're getting to when it sounds good. All right. Yeah, and I'm using parallels to compensate for the loudness, and when I'm doing this demo, because I'm changing the loudness and the gain a lot. So when I'm not going to use the bypass button here in the plugin, I'm going to use the pre button in parallels instead. So when I'm pressing this, we're listening into the unprocessed signal, and when it's not pressed, we're listening to Peach. So let's do that just once so you can see what I mean. Pretty obvious. All right. Right now you think, what should we have this plugin to? That sounded like complete shit. Well, wait until we start to dial in things in this. We're gonna start by dialing in. We're gonna try to hit the kick drum in this. So I'm gonna dial in the settings so that we have, when the kick hits, the signal will be above the threshold, and when the kick is not present, then it will be below. That way we basically have a level knob for the kick, and that's cool. So I mean, a compressor can work like that as well, but a compressor is hard. It's often that you either compress or you expand with the plugin. You don't do both. Even if a compressor can be set up to expand, you do that with compression and with the makeup gain. The actual process is compressing, while this plugin can be an expander, and you have a makeup gain as well. So you can do it, set it up like a classic compressor if you want. But here we go. I'm gonna try to dial in that kick. Okay, I'm happy with that. We're resetting the level buttons, and now we can start to play around with this. Let's try to first compress the kick, and I'm gonna do that by just attenuate the signal when it goes above the threshold. You can hear that is completely overcompressed. I'm attenuating the signal by oh sorry, it was, I think it's something like, yeah, like 9 decibels when the signal goes above the threshold. So what happens if we expanding? So we're gonna start to boost the signal when it goes above instead. Again, this is 9 decibels of boost. It doesn't sound that good, but if we go back a little bit, let's say that it's somewhere between a half decibel up to maybe 2 decibels. See how that sounds? Maybe something like that. I hope you could hear that I could isolate the kick and I could just boost it a little bit. On the end, I used the dry wet because I thought that, well, I'm overdoing it a little bit, but then it's just easy to back off with the dry wet, so I backed it off a little bit. Of course, you can change the signal when it's below the threshold as well and leave this, or you can work with them together. Let's play with it below. It will sound about the same right now. All right, I haven't had the time to write the manual for this thing yet. So if you click the open the manual, you will just see a manual how to use the delta and bypass button. So sorry about that, but I'm gonna get to that. If you want to play with this now, if you feel confident that you understand the plugin, download and play with it, or you can stay with me because I'm going to talk about all the controls in this plugin right now. So this is one of those long videos. So, but I actually think this plugin is pretty easy to understand. So bear with me. Once I talked about all the controls, you will be able to dial this in like no time. It's easy to use and it's very effective. So here we go. I'm gonna start up in the corner here with the attack and look ahead. Why is it called attack and look ahead instead of just look ahead? That's because this is a smoothing algorithm. It's not just a look ahead. It's also smooths the movement of the level, because the whole plugin comes from experiments that I did to understand limiters better, because limiters are, a good limiter is really intriguing because it does things that should generate distortion, but a well-made limiter doesn't distort, and I wanted to understand that a little bit better, which I do now. And the smoothing algorithm is a huge part of the limiter. And if you want to know more about limiters, then this plugin it's pretty much what it does, because the thing with the limiter, to avoid distortion, you want to change the level as little as possible. So when the signal starts to hit whatever threshold or ceiling you set, let's say that you put it at 0 decibels full scale, when it starts to get close to that, and if you have a look ahead, so you realize that we will hit the ceiling or go above it in like a couple of milliseconds, then you should react. But what should the plugin do? That's the whole secret behind limiting, because you could just decide that, well, as soon as that happens, lower the level by 3 decibels, and that's what it do. Then you have a not so transparent limiter. But what you could do is that you measure, if you have a look ahead, especially if you have a look ahead, you can measure how much the over will be when you get to that point. And then you can adjust just as much as you need to adjust to remove that over. So if that is 0.3 decibels, or if that is like -1 or -2 decibels, then you just do that. And so they play together when you're doing transparent limiting. How much should you adjust that peak, and what will happen? Always know what will happen next. And yeah, it's interesting. And this plugin, I made this to dial in different settings so you can hear what effect it had on things. Then I realized that this is a really cool thing. I want this as a plugin. And then I start to do things, and now it's not a limiter at all. Now it's something else. You can use it for limiting, but it's not a limiter. It's more of a dynamic playground. All right. So attack and look ahead, it will smooth the signal as well as set a look ahead. So right now it's at 6 milliseconds. I think that's a good number if you still want some. Yeah, if you want to really have those, you want to grab those transients of sounds, but you don't want the distortion, then it's good. I often find myself being a bit higher, like 18 milliseconds or so. Then it's really smooth. So let's do 18 milliseconds right now. You can to understand this better, I just think you should play around with it, really, and listen what happens when you use different look aheads with this plugin. Alright, then reset peaks. It will always show you the peak values, and that comes from that me playing around with it as a limiter. And then sometimes you want to reset it, because it will show you the current peak with this meter here, and will show the max peak. And these are the incoming. Then you have the outgoing max peak that will be shown here. So you can see how much you're adding or taking away from the signal. And these numbers will surprise you a little bit sometimes. You think you're taking away something, but you actually have higher peaks, and that's because we're blending the upper and lower part of the signal. When we since it's not either the top gain control or the lower, you smoothly crossfade in between those, and when you blend the upper and lower part, things happens with the signal. Sometimes you think the logic tells you that the peak should be lower, but it's not. It's not always like that, but it can happen. So that's why those are there, and this button will just reset that. So if we play this, as you can see now, we can tell that this is 6.89. Yeah, and these are also the liner scale from 0 to 10. Good to know. So right now we have peaks at 6.89, so it's a bit from 0 decibel full scale, which is 10 in this plugin. Then we have a knob that doesn't say anything. I will actually add a headline for this, or mark it so you know what it is. It's the incoming level, so it's just changing the signal that's coming into the signal to the plugin. You can attenuate by 12 decibel or boost it by 12 decibel. Right now it's at 0, so it doesn't do anything. Then we have the upper and lower part. These are the gain controls for the part of the signal that is above the threshold, and this is the for the part of the signal that's below the threshold. Then we have the threshold, and this just sets the threshold between 0 and 10. This is a linear scale, so this is 0 decibels full scale, and this is infinitive silence. So I just decided to do it this way. I found that it was easier to set the threshold. I don't know if you will agree with me. We'll see. It's possible to change it to a decibel scale, but I think for me this works really well, and I hope you will agree. We'll see about that. And there's a little button there, and this is the same button that I have in some of my other plugins, where you just adjust the incoming signal, so it will measure the max peak and will make sure that the max peaks that are in the incoming signal will be 10 in the scale, and the silence will be 0 at the end of the end. So what you do is just play the most intense part of the audio, and you hit threshold, and then you have set your threshold, so you have a signal that's workable. Easy peasy, like that. Alright, then we have the meter here in the middle, and that will just show you which part is playing, as well as these LEDs does. So if we play a little bit, the LED will lit up in the upper part as soon as the threshold goes, or the signal goes above 0 in the crossfade. So exactly at the point where it's as much of both signals, both the upper and the lower, and it just goes up, so it's more of the over, then the upper LED will lit up, and the same goes with the LED for the lower part, just as soon as the signal is on the lower part of the scale. So that doesn't mean that it's completely either the upper or lower, it's just that this is the main level control right now. And you can see that they not always correlate with the meter that shows you where the signal is in the crossfade between the two, which this meter in the middle shows, this thing. And that's because this thing reacts to the up and down times, which is kind of, you can use it, it's the same as attack and release. But in this plugin, it made more sense to call it up and down, because this is the time it will take for the signal, as the signal goes above the threshold, how long it will take before the signal crossfade is up. And down is when it's in the upper region, and going down, how long will it take for it to go down. If these are 0 milliseconds, then it's just really fast. And yeah, let's do that, just so you can hear how it kind of sounds like distortion. It will distort because it goes so fast. And as you can see, when I'm start to change the downtown, so I'm adding a little time to slow that down, it starts to stay in the upper part of the signal, or the threshold, the upper part of the threshold a little longer. And the same goes if we're starting to raise the up. It will take longer time for the crossfade to go up to the upper part. And if we set it to 2 seconds like this, then it probably will stay down here all the time. as you can see, you can dial in all sorts of crazy settings when you start to work with the level, the threshold, the up and down controls. Then you soon have some like a dynamic monster that you can do pretty much anything with. It's really fun. All right, let's reset these settings and talk about the clipper. This comes also from the experiment when I was trying to understand limiting a little bit better. From this, when I realized that this could be a cool plugin, then I thought that, well, I'm gonna remove the clipper. It's not suited for the plugin. But then I removed it and I start to miss it. And it's so cool because you can do fun things. So you can keep the signal below the threshold as is, and then you can clip the upper part. So you can just have clipping as the kick hits. I mean, you can set a normal clipper like that as well. But with this, you have time adjustment as well, so you can adjust it so it will clip when there's a kick, but not when there's other elements that are quicker because you have slowed down the signal. So it's not like a normal clipper. It's a normal clipper, but you have the dynamic section in before the clipper. So what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna boost the kick. As we've done before. So we're gonna set this to not that one. I always click the wrong one. There we go, like 50 milliseconds. So we slow it down a little bit. We're gonna set this to 6 milliseconds because I want it pretty snappy. And we're gonna see what the max peaks of the incoming is. So I set the clipper to 6.83, which is the max peak of the incoming signal, and now we're activating that. If we're boosting the signal in the upper part now, then we just run it into more clipping. So let's do that, see how far we can go before we just the distortion becomes obvious. And this is the cool thing. I'm listening to the delta at the end, and it only adds. It doesn't clip if it doesn't have to. That's the setting that you can do with this, and yeah, it's fun. And you don't have to do it like this. Set the max peak to the same value as the incoming peaks. You can set your own value if you want to, but it's a way to further control the peak level that's leaving the plugin. Let's play around with it a little bit, or we can do some other crazy thing. Let's clip everything below, but we're not changing the gain, but we're gonna clip everything below the threshold to the number 2 and see how that sounds. Weird setting. So right now I'm clipping the signal when it goes below the threshold, and I clip it to the number 0.5. So pretty much everything that's not a kick will be clipped. Cool thing. I don't know what to use it for, but you can do that. Do it with Peach. It's cool. All right. So that's the clipper, and you don't have to activate it. It's activated when you hit the button, and it's bypassed if it's not. Press down. The up and down, we talked about that. That's the time it takes for the signal to go, the crossfade from the lower part when the signal is below the threshold to when the signal goes above the threshold. How long time will it take for the signal to crossfade to the upper part, so that this level control starts to be in play. And the down is the same thing, but it's from the time it takes when it's on the upper part of here, how long it takes to when it goes down to the signal that's below the threshold. Dry wet, really cool on this plugin. I use it a lot, so you can dial in some really extreme settings and then bag it off a little bit. And makeup, just a makeup gain, nothing strange. And then we have the delta and bypass. You know what that does, and open the manual will explain that further, but that's the only thing it will explain right now. Then we have a little button in the middle here, and if you use my other plugins, you can see the little animation that will tell you what this is. It's a loudness compensation button. So when you press that, then the signal will be loudness compensated, but it will be loudness compensated for the signal as it is at the current time when you press it. So it's not a continuous controller. So if you change a lot, then you need to press that again, and that's why I used Perloves for this demo, because Perloves adapts all the time. This doesn't. I tried it with having kind of a Perloves loudness compensation in this plugin, but it didn't work that well, I thought. So it got hard to dial in settings, so I decided to have a static loudness compensation button. Just good to know, but it's great to have sometimes. All right, let's finish this off with me dialing in some settings, and I want to expand the kick in this because I think it's a little bit overcompressed, and I want to see if we can restore some of that. Yep, it's fun. So this is Peach. Go and download it. I'm gonna add a demo. So if you're not a patron, you can try it out if you're interested. And for patrons, it's in the download hub. So have a great evening, and I see you with the next update or plug-in. Bye bye.